We're live. Looks like we're back. We are, we're here. We're here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. The show is called Boston Straight Shooters. I am Frank, and I'm with my co-pilot, my nemesis. I'm calling my nemesis today because his name is Steve. We
Nemesis.
call Negative Ned. He's my nemesis because getting ready to go against some of the stuff that, we're going to probably talk about. Anyway, this is the sports show, the Boston Sports Show. We talk about Boston sports. We talk about the Boston Celtics, Boston Red Sox, Boston Bruins, and New England Patriots. We give our advice on and our thoughts on what we see and what we hear right now. Is going on in the Boston sports world, and Steve is the one who's going to give you his unapologetic, thought process on whether you like it or not. He's going to give it to you as Negative Ned, and that's what he's going to be known as. So before we jump into that, Steve, how you doing? How's it been? I've been gone for 2 weeks. How you been?
I'm good, Frank. I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're back. So
Yeah, I am
I'm
too.
good.
Thank you. All right, so Steve, it's been 2 weeks. A lot has happened in 2 weeks. By the way, you see Kev. You see Kevin
Let's
in
see.
the
We'll let him
thing.
in.
All right.
There he is. Cal, welcome aboard. You're frozen.
Yeah, he's gonna have to get somewhere. But so Steve, lots happened in 2 weeks. Being that stuff has happened in 2 weeks, and welcome to the show. Kev is in the show too. He might have to go somewhere else so he's not sticking, somewhere in his house or something like that. Um, Again, lots happened. We got a lot to discuss. 2 weeks ago, I went to a New England Patriots practice. I saw a lot of stuff in New England Patriots practice. I saw a lot of things, and then since that time I saw that, I also saw two preseason games. So I'm gonna dive right in, and I'm gonna jump in, and I'm gonna ask you guys some questions, and then I'm gonna give my thoughts. Steve, I'm gonna start with you while Kev gets started. First question up, because and everybody's talking about this and everything else. After the two preseason games you've seen, and now since the NFL now has cut back from four preseason games to three, after two preseason games you've seen right now, where's your thought process on the New England Patriots going into their third preseason game? Just you don't have to dive in too deep. Just give me your overall, and then I'm gonna ask Kev his thought process, because there's a purpose, there's a method to my madness of asking this question. What's your thoughts, Steve?
Uh, I'll keep it short and simple. They still have a lot of work to do.
Okay, that's a little too short, but okay.
All right. So all right, let me give you a little more. The defense is ahead of the offense. Obviously, I think they
Right.
played pretty decent. The offense. Uh, we're going to keep saying that the line is a sieve, and it needs to get rectified. So without diving in too much, my early observations are that line needs work badly. I mentioned last week briefly while the game was going on how bad the two tackles were, and I'll just stop there so everybody else can get their 2 cents because we're going to talk more about it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Kev
He
fell out
dropped
because
off,
he
but he'll come
froze.
back. I'll let him back in when he comes in.
All right. My thought process is actually I'm all over the place with this. Like when I watched the practice versus the games, I was more shocked and awe what I saw in practice versus what I saw in the games. That's probably number one. And number two, the biggest thing is I was more impressed with the quarterbacks in practice than I were in either game. That's the part that really stood out to me. And I was really excited before the second preseason game on where the Patriots going throughout the season, but I have to admit, Steve, I'm really concerned. I'm not even going to say. At first, I was thinking, okay, the Patriots are going to win 10 games. They might win 11 games. I had this conversation. Now after seeing the preseason games, after seeing the practices, I would be surprised. Honestly, Steve, I'm going to say this, and you're going to be shocked. I would be surprised if the Patriots won one game. That's what
One.
I'm. I would be surprised if they won one game. Yeah,
They got to win
because
more than one. Wow.
yeah, and I'm gonna tell you why. Um, I think the Patriots are on the cusp of being very, very, very good, but I do think that their offensive line and that whole debacle of what they're doing there and the mixing and matching the offensive line and trying to rotate it and they're not addressing the offensive line. I think it's worse now than it's been in 20 something years. I honestly think so. When I was at practice, when I saw, I told you, I texted you and everything else, and I said I went to the practice and everything else. When I went to the practice, the defensive line broke to the offensive line every single time. It wasn't a time they didn't break. Now, our defense is good, but they're not that good. Steve. They're not that good that they're going to break through every other offense on every other team's line every game. They're not going to do that every game. So that gave me my antennas jumped up and said, "Oh my God, this is what's going on." And they did that all the time without Matthew Judon on the practice field, which made me go, "Wow." Keon White got in every single time. Now, remember, I told you I was there at the practice field when I got when the practice was over, my family was able to go down and we ended up talking and everything else. I talked to a couple of players, obviously without mics and everything else. And I got one player who I don't want to put him out there or anything else. And I asked him his opinion on what he thought of the offensive line. And I can't quote him exactly, but he basically said it's really bad. That's basically what he said. He said it's really bad. He said it, and obviously he said it to me in confidence. We weren't. That's why I'm not going to say his name and put him out there and everything because he didn't know I did had a sports podcast and everything else. But he came to me. He said it to me, and we were talking, and I was like, well, okay. So my thought process is pretty good right now, thinking and knowing what I saw. So Steve, knowing what I saw, sports media here in Boston and everything else, they all concerned with Drake May. They're concerned with who the QB is. Are they, in your opinion? Because in my opinion, they are. And I'm going to ask this question. I already answered it for you. But in my opinion, I think everybody's overlooking the real problem. And the real problem that New England Patriots are going to have this upcoming season is going to be the offensive line. We've solved the problem for the wide receivers. We solved the problem for the quarterbacks. Steve, help me out here. Like, what the hell is going on?
Well, I don't think that the media or whatever around here is overlooking the offensive line. I mean, they asked Elliot Wolf point blank yesterday or the day before how he felt about the offensive line and whether they're going to bring more guys in and so on and so forth. He said he's happy with the group they have. Now, we're not happy with the group they have because I watched the game and they looked like a bunch of turnstiles. And then to hear the guys that were at the practice, not the same one as you, but their weekly report, and after they watched the joint practice with Philly, and you hear that they gave up more sacks than like offensive plays. 15 sacks they gave up. I mean, and 14 like completions. Mm-hmm. That's horrible. And then to hear that Drake May on 5 of his last 6 dropbacks got sacked in that joint practice. That's a huge red flag. And so that ties in with what you said about what you saw and how bad it is. For any of the players, in confidence or not, they're not going to do it publicly, obviously, but in confidence to you. And obviously, we don't want to put who it is out there. But for them to come and say it's really bad, like there's an acknowledgement by those guys. Internally, there's got to be some acknowledgement somewhere along the line that, hey, this isn't right. And again, this is the same thing we talked about the first year they had Patricia and Judge, who I call frickin' frack or Dumb and Dumber. They tried to change the blocking to that zone blocking stuff that Denver used to run back in the day, or maybe a lot of the teams are running now. And again, it's all new terminology. You got all new guys. You got no continuity. The only guy that's 2 guys I would say that's a constant there is David Andrews and Michael Leno. And so you're trying to implement a new system with new guys. They're not going to open up any holes for anybody. They're going to have trouble blocking. It's going to take time for them to learn it. And so, unfortunately, Belichick wasn't ahead of the curve with this a few years ago. And he tried to implement it with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. He really should have tried to do it when Josh McDaniels was here. It would have been better. So I expect the offensive line to struggle. I saw the first half of the game, and the 2 tackles, they look small.
Mm-hmm.
They look undersized. They look like they weren't even the size of Gronk, and the guys were going around them like they were nothing. The guy turned around. I was like, "That's a left tackle. That's a right tackle." Those guys, And then I went and looked after 6'5", 310, 6'5", 320. I'm like, they're really they're lean, and they just don't look big. And maybe it's because we're used to seeing Trent Brown, right? He was a big guy. I looked at that and I was like, whoa, they're gonna have issues. Now look, it isn't gonna be all bad. They're gonna make plays. I mean, I'm disappointed too to see Brissett for that interception down there in field goal range. Like, hey, dum-dum. I mean, unless he was just trying to, it's practice, whatever, I'm going to try this. In a game, he should never do that because he looked like Mac Jones. I was like, dude, I thought we got rid of him. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Throw that out of the end zone. put the
Mm-hmm.
points on the board. That should be a no-brainer for a guy that's a 9-year veteran. So I was disappointed to see that. And as far as Drake May, yes, I agree with you. Everybody's trying to pump him up, and they want to see him in there, and they want him to start because he's the third overall pick and all this and that. But you got to pump the brakes a little bit. And look, I'm psyched that what I saw, he ran in for a touchdown. He has the mobility that we haven't had here for a long time. But he'll get killed if you put him out there right now at that line.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, he will.
Disappointment for us is they didn't address that and fix it. So look, it's going to take 8 weeks before you can see him. That's my prediction.
Well, from my observation and everything else, what I saw, Milton looked better than May when I went to both practices. You know what I mean? He looked better both times. And the crazy part is I turned to a couple people I was sitting next to, and I was like, what would we be looking at right now if we didn't know the draft status of either QB? You know what I mean? Like, who would be starting and who wouldn't be? You know what I mean? Like, it'd be interesting to find that out. And I think, I could be wrong here, I think they're pushing Drake May because he's the number 1, 2 and the number 3 pick in the draft. I think they got so much, behind him and everything else. I think they're doing that. But I also think, and from talking to other people in the Patriots organization, they are blown away with how good Milton was and how he fell so far. I don't think that any of them expected him to be that good and being able to scramble. He's the best scrambler on the team. There's no doubt about that. And my thought, even mentioning this, is if the offensive line is that bad, you need to have the best scrambler on the team playing QB. But they won't do that, obviously, because they have so much stock in Drake May right now. You know what I mean? That's where they are with that. But Drake May would be a good number 1, and Milton be a good number 2. We're gonna definitely have Milton for at least 2 or 3 years because of the contract status and everything else. And then after that, we'll see. But I do see, and I'm gonna say this now, so you can't say I didn't say it. I do see a Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady QB controversy in our future, not near future, but in our future. If let's say Jacoby is gone and Drake May start next year, and Drake May gets hurt and Milton comes in and he's flashier and he runs faster and he's throwing the ball, then there's going to be a
And they're
real
winning. That's the
and
key.
yeah, and I was about to say, and they start winning more games with this guy, and I mean that's going to cause a real serious QB controversy. But my thing is this, Steve: both of these QBs are good, and we can't have 2 great QBs. I think Drake May is going to be when his career is done. I think he's going to be one of those guys people will be talking about. I think he would. That's just. I'm not saying he's going to be Hall of Fame. I don't know that. But I do think he's going to leave his mark in the NFL when he's gone. But I also think the same thing with Milton because his arm is there too. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do with that. But I also don't think that they have a great coaching staff. If that, I don't. I'm so disappointed in the coaching staff. I can't even begin to tell you. I don't like. I don't like. Listen, Steve. I guess I could be negative Ned today because I don't like anything I'm seeing on the Patriots. I don't. I told my wife this is the first time since 1996 that I'm not excited about seeing the New England Patriots start. Because I saw what they did in practice. I shouldn't have never gone to the practice, Steve. That ruined it for me. I should never. I probably have more enthusiasm watching a game than I would if I was actually not have seen the game. You know what I mean? Going to practice kind of ruined it for me. So I
But
don't know.
here's how I look at it. We know they're in for a rough year, right?
Right.
There's gonna be a point where it's possible for them to be 0-8, 1-7, 2-7, or something like that. But there will also at some point, maybe not this year, but there will be some upside. And so I think it will get better, and it won't be this year. But I agree with you that they should do whatever they can to keep Joe Milton. And I would dump Zappy right now in a second. Nobody picked him up last year. When the cuts come around, I would cut him and keep Joe Milton and develop him because, to your point, you need a guy that's athletic. And so I would keep him as the third QB because the other thing, too, is I don't want him exposed to the practice squad and have a chance of somebody picking him up like Baltimore did with Cunningham. So, and also, he's got the arm strength. Late in the game, 2 seconds left on the clock, you're at the 50-yard line, you need a long bomb, 60 yards, whatever. Stick him in there and throw it down there and see what you can do. I mean, you're not losing anything. Not that May couldn't do it, but maybe it's possible that you can use him in some.
Milton could definitely do it a whole lot easier. I saw him do it so many times I lost count.
So I want guys that give us a chance and I want guys that are athletic, and I want them to finally get with the program, and never mind the Rohan Davey, Michael
Yeah,
Bishop nonsense. That's done. Let's
yeah,
you know
yeah. Zappy's got to go too.
we had the guy last year. Can you
Yeah,
imagine right now if we had Drake May, Cunningham, and Joe Milton? I mean, I would like that, but
yeah.
Belichick
It's,
doesn't go for the new mobile guys, and so I definitely share your enthusiasm as far as Joe Milton, but I do want to pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think now I'm not going to say you're going to be wrong about a controversy. If May got hurt and then Joe Milton started winning games, he would obviously take his place. But I think for the present moment, no matter what you see in practice, I still think May is going to be the next guy in line, regardless. And so
I listen. I want them to cut Zappy right now because they're taking
I do
away
too.
snaps. They're taking away snaps from Milton and Zappy. You know what I mean?
Well, he's not even getting any snaps. Most of the practices, he's gotten like no snaps, Zappio. He's gotten
Well,
the
he got some
scraps
when
at
I
the
was.
end.
He
And
got
so
some.
you're wasting him. You'll let him go. See
Yeah,
ya.
he got some. He got some when I was there, and that's why I was like, this guy needs to go. And I wish him luck on some other team and everything else because he's not a horrible QB. You know what I mean? He just was on a horrible team. He'll be able to help somebody out, but he just really he can't be on a team that has a horrible offensive line because he's not a great scrambler. He'll probably be great on a team that has a great offensive line. We'll be looking back and saying, wow, this guy did pretty good. But another topic came up for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And I got to say this too. I don't like the way the Patriots handled this either with this Matthew Judon situation. I didn't want them to get rid of him. I'm throw it out there and say I wanted him to stay. But after seeing the practices and everything else, and after seeing the end of last year, I did come to the conclusion that we could go on without him and not miss a beat. But it would have been amazing to have him and Keon White on the team at the same time. And instead of them subbing each other out, if we got into a serious third down situation and we had to get a stop, and you put both of those guys in together, one on one end and the other one on the other end, or you sub Keon in the middle of the man, the Patriots could have had one of the most disruptive, defenses in the league. Now they gave Matthew Judon up to Atlanta, and Atlanta right now on paper, I'm gonna say that again, on paper, they look like they have the best defense going into the league with all the additions they just made. So I'm gonna throw it out there to you, Steve, and then we're gonna move on. What's your thoughts on Matthew Judon leaving? Were you for it or against it?
I wanted him to stay like you did, but also understand the circumstances. He's a malcontent. He's not
Yeah.
happy with his contract, and you have a rookie coach now that's trying to motivate the team. And and I said this last week while you weren't on, is that the more time that he spends, the
Well,
more time that he spends on Matthew Judon, the less time he's spending bonding with the rest of the guys and getting everybody on the same page. And so I think that it's unfortunate that they couldn't resolve the issue, but I think he wanted too much. I think he wanted more money. He wanted more years. We don't know for sure, obviously, but I just think that if he's that upset about his contract, it's time to move on and let him go somewhere else. And, you know, unbeknownst to us at the time, it has come out that Chicago also made an offer for a third round pick, except the stipulation that they had put in was that they wanted the contract extension resolved before they traded for him, and it didn't. Then once they realized it wasn't going to happen, they backed away and said, "Okay, forget it." So I initially last week said, "Hey, maybe they went to Matthew Judon and said, hey, we have Atlanta and we have Chicago. Where would you like to go?" It didn't look solid that way, but I don't believe that that's actually the case now. I think Chicago looked at it and said, "Hey, we can't extend this guy, so we're not gonna do it." And so we went to Atlanta and a third round pick. Uh, I agree with you. The goal would have been to keep him and have him and Keon White opposite each other on third down situations. But to get a third round pick, they're lucky they got that because had they waited longer, I think it would have been worse. It would have been like a fourth or a fifth rounder. So, look, uh, if he's 28, it's a no-brainer to give him money. They did a solid for him the last 2 years. They shuffled his money around. They paid him $19 million like a top guy, and then he gets hurt and plays 4 games. You can't pay him that money again, and you can't extend him and give him 2 extra years or whatever he wants. He's on the wrong side of 30. So, look, disappointed to see him go. He was good here, the time that he played, but eventually, if it's too disruptive, and I believe that's where it got to. Too disruptive, then you don't have a
Well,
choice. You
at the
have
end of the day, I think the team Atlanta got made a good choice with him and everything else because he didn't hurt any of his legs. He didn't hurt his arms. He just hurt his pectoral muscle. His pectoral muscle is probably the best muscle to get injured because it doesn't. It really is not going to affect you, with your age and everything else. And he wasn't declining before his injury. So I think honestly, I think he's going to be a good addition to them.
Right. So let me just say this real quick because I said this last week. Matthew Judon is not the difference between 4 and 8 wins. Like he doesn't. He's not that kind of an impact. If he was, then I wouldn't get rid of him, obviously. But
Yeah.
they're going to suck this year with him or without him. So they're better off letting him go somewhere where he has a chance to be a little more successful.
All right, so let's talk about the Red Sox right now. I wanted to dive in and talk about the Red Sox because the Red Sox right now are Boston's most interesting team. They're in the thick of things right now. They are the boys of summer. They're any nickname you could think of right now. The Red Sox, they're doing something like they do all the time. They capture your heart and they have you first choke on your vomit and
Speak
then
for
they have
yourself.
you. Yeah, right. I forgot who I was talking about.
Haven't captured my heart. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm talking to the general fans because I'm still mad at the Red Sox. They're still not going
I
to be
know.
the guy who's going to be, hey, I'm going to the Red Sox game. And now this is the guy who goes to the Red Sox games every year. I haven't been since Mookie Betts, because I still think, and I'm going to say this in the record, I still think the Red Sox did the two worst trades in the history of Major League Baseball with Babe Ruth and Mookie Betts. But that's besides the point.
I agree. No, I
That's
agree.
besides the point. Um, so right now, the Red Sox are in the thick of things. It's the dog days of summer now. We're coming down to the end of the summer, and the Red Sox are now battling for the wild card spot. As of a couple of hours ago, they were 3.5 games out. They win the series against Houston, which I thought they were going to lose. They have Kansas City has Philadelphia coming up this weekend, but the Red Sox have blown 13 saves, the most in Major League since the All Star game, but their rookies are coming up and their rookies are doing pretty good. Just listen, the Red Sox are the team. I'm gonna throw this out there and say this to you, Steve. The Red Sox are a team that I've never seen in all the years I've watched baseball with any team. I haven't seen a team like this before. Just when you think, okay, they're down and out, usually whatever way the team trends is the way they're going to go. If they're trending up, then they're going to continue to go up. If they're trending down, they continue to go down. The Red Sox look like that meter, that health meter on TV. He goes up and down, up and down, up and down. To me, that's what they're doing. Like a week ago, I was like, yeah, that's it. They're over. Now they're climbing back in the wild card thing. So my question to you, Steve, is: do you think the Red Sox are going to make it to the wild card? And no, let me just throw that out there for you. First one: do you think they're going to make it to in the wild card? What do you think, Steve?
No. And
Okay.
here's why. Because the bullpen keeps blowing the saves, and it's not Kenley Jansen. I know he gave up a home run to Houston the other day, but he's only blowing 4 saves. It's the rest of the guys. They come in, they get the lead. They had a 3-run lead twice, and that guys they brought in. The Ocean State job lot bums came in and gave it up. And actually, I shouldn't even say that. Some of the acquisitions they got, Luis Garcia has pitched terrible. Other than yesterday or the day before. I mean, I was looking at his numbers: 6 2/3 innings, 16 runs earned allowed. Like, he's been horrible, and that's unfortunate for a guy that has the experience he has. I really thought he would make a difference. It's Lucas Sims. He's another guy. Those are the two like good guys that they brought in the trade deadline, so to speak, for what you were going to get, and for them to be failing. And then again, you have these other guys. Zach Kelly and Greg Wiesert and all these Cooper Criswell and all these other guys you never heard of. It's like, okay, here we go again with the rotisserie from last year. And so I was thinking about this. I think that Breslow did better than Chaim Bloom to give them a shot. Because remember last year at this time, when he did nothing, within the first 2 weeks of August, they just fell, to your point. There was no health meter up and down. It was just, they just fell off a cliff. This is how I look at the shopping. So I give him a little credit because, yes, he has a plethora of Ocean State job lot bums, but when you go to the deli, you have the Market Basket brand cheese, then you have Land O'Lakes, then you have Boar's Head, right? I think Breslow did like the middle. He did like Land O'Lakes. Those guys he got at the deadline are like mid guys. The other guys, the Boar's Head guys, those are like going shopping at Neiman Marcus. They're never going shopping there again, in my opinion. John Henry's not going to spend that kind of money to get the elite top-end guys to help them push over the hump. And for Alex Cora to be getting what he's getting out of these guys, they're on pace for 86 wins.
Mm-hmm.
I had them at 75, and they're within striking distance of that. So for them to not get 75 or 78, where the experts pick them, would be an epic fail for them. They'd have to lose like 2/3 of their game. So I think that he's getting them to hang on. He's getting them to overachieve, and that's what they're giving him. They're giving him Land O'Lakes and Ocean State job lot guys, and he's pushing them. And Matt, put it this way: if they did anything real at the deadline and got Neiman Marcus type guys, imagine how much better they would be. Kansas City got those kind of guys. They went on a 5-game run.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to make it because Kansas City made better moves than they did at the deadline.
Steve, they had more blown saves since the All-Star game, but they also blew 4 runs. They were up 4-0, and they won 5. Was it 5-4 yesterday or 6-5? I don't know. They
6-5, but there was another game they were up 3-0, and the guy gave it right back. Then they were up again like 7-4, and they coughed it up and lost the game. So those games are killing them.
So let's say they make it. Let's say they make it. Are they? I think they might make it by the skin of their teeth, but I also think there'll be a first-round exit once they do make it, depending on who they get.
One game out.
Yeah, but I am excited about the future because what Alex Cora was trying to do, and the reason why he signed on, I can see it clearly now because he saw what he had coming up through the minor leagues. He literally saw it because the rookie guys. And some of these young guys coming up through AAA and everything else, some of these guys are really, really good, and they have potential to be extremely good. So, is he building that next, Red Sox dynasty? They really could be. They really, really could be. And maybe they're trying to give these guys a taste on what it's like to be in the thick of things. But the best thing I like about this Red Sox team right now, and I don't like a lot of them, is that they're not giving up. You know what I mean? They're not giving up. These guys, the hitters, not giving up. But then you have some stupidity by some of these young guys too, which Alex Cora has to ring in with the Duran suspension. So I'm gonna let you talk about it for a second, but I'm gonna throw this out there before I throw it to you, and I'm gonna say sometimes you forget how young and immature some of these guys are when you see that they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And I remember how immature I was at that age, even though at the time I didn't know I was that immature. But being in the batter's box and not realizing all the cameras are on you when the pitcher is pitching to you and thinking that the volume is not on you, it's got to be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the history of sports. Not just the history of Major League Baseball, in the history of sports. Because if you step out, what do you think? The audio is not literally going to pick up your volume? I mean, the volume is always picked up. It's just sometimes the cameras choose not to broadcast it or not, but they always are recording what they're going to be at the plate. But anyway, I'm gonna throw it to you, Steve. Can you tell everybody out there, in case they missed it, what happened, so they know what I'm talking about?
Okay, so before I get into that, I'm going to tell you what I say about people that are in their 20s, right? I call those the young and stupid years because we were young and we were stupid and we did a lot of stupid things. Duran's 26, so to your point, he's doing stupid things. It's natural, and that's how you learn. That said, and I said this last week, I don't know what the fan was heckling him about the whole game, other than the last thing we picked up where he said, you need a tennis racket. Bring a tennis racket. That was like the last straw for Duran. But you can't use that commentary that he used to snap back at him. Most of the time you can say F you, I guess. Or what he should have said was nothing at all. Right? You gotta let it go. You have to. You can't bark at the fans. And I brought up in the 70s when we were watching the Red Sox and the Yankees when Dwight Evans is in right field getting batteries thrown at him. I mean, the fans are not allowed to, just carte blanche, fire away on all cylinders. Now, to me, this guy, he kind of reminded me like the guy in Happy Gilmore, right? He's in the bushes, jackass, right? And so it finally got to Duran. He finally beat up Bob Barker, so to speak. And he crossed the line, and he should have been suspended. You just can't look. 40 or 50 years ago, nobody batted an eye because there was no audio, there was no Twitter, there was no social media. It's not up everywhere. there's more awareness now. You have to be aware, and these guys are supposed to be professionals. When you're at the major league level, you're supposed to act like a professional at all times. And I understand sometimes they fight, sometimes they argue with the umps and whatnot. They have altercations with the fans. I get it, but he should have took his lumps, went in the tunnel, spout off in the tunnel, and vent down there, and then come back and leave the fans out of it. And I tried to bring up. I don't know who it was in the NBA. I thought it was Ron Artest. I could be wrong. But wasn't there a guy that somebody threw a drink on him? Not Kyrie Irving at the Garden. It was somebody threw a beer or something on the guy, and the guy jumped in the stands. And I want to say it was in Detroit. And this is like probably 10 or 15 years ago. And regardless, you just can't do that. I mean, I understand the guy's frustration. You can't jump in the stands. You just can't do it. You can't heckle the fans. You can't yell at them. You just have to, and to sit there and apologize to the ump and the catcher right away because he knew he screwed up. Listen, sometimes I'm all for shooting first and asking questions later, but in this case, you can't do that because you're supposed to be professional. So it's disappointing. And two, also, I want to bring up, he's having a phenomenal year. He's getting all these accolades, MVP of the All-Star game. He won the like Heart and Soul Award for the team, which is voted on by ex-players. So, look, he's taken himself a little bit of a hit, a little bit of damage, and hopefully, he'll learn from that, and so will everybody else. I mean, look, he just in today's day and age, nobody can get away with that anymore. You just shouldn't do it.
It's not even the worst part. The worst part of all this is that now the fans know, in every league he goes to, and every stadium he goes to, they know now that they can say something to him and it'll irritate him and it'll bother him. That's when you let somebody know what your kryptonite is, they're gonna always pull it out. That to me, and he was an all-star. He was the American League All-Star at the All-Star game. He's the team loves him, everybody loves him, but now they know your weakness. So now how he basically is going to be able to progress moving forward, it'd be interesting to see. It'd really be interesting to see his stats and everything else a year from now, after he's been called all kinds of names and stuff like that, and how he's at the batter's box. It'd be interesting to circle back, see that.
I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name that was here last year. The 39-year-old guy that was on the Dodgers. He went to the Blue Jays this year.
Well, what happened?
I'm just saying, a guy like that in the clubhouse that's a veteran presence could pull him aside and say, hey, you don't do that, so on and so forth, and help mentor him. Right now, I don't think they have any of those kind of guys because everybody's young and they're all like around the same age. And like, who's the veteran guy now? Probably Tyler O'Neill or Matt,
Trevor Story,
Matt Suzaka or Trevor Story. I mean, so
yeah.
We're talking about a guy that was good in the clubhouse and really could have probably helped him avoid that, because it probably wasn't the first time, right, that the fans got to him, like you said, get his kryptonite, and it just happened to be this one time it got picked up. So
yeah,
maybe if he was there earlier and somebody saw it, they could have helped him out. But
it was that, Steve, and what he said. I'm not obviously not going to repeat it, and what he said makes him look really, really bad. And obviously, the a lot of gay activists and stuff are going to make sure that he doesn't get any higher than what he is right now. He's got even a tougher road to climb because of what he said. It's so anti everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just anti one thing; it's anti everything. And I don't know. I wish I was sitting next to him, because I'd have been like, dude, I don't know what you did and everything else, but now you need to hire a publicist, because you got to do a whole image makeover, because now you looking like your stuff didn't stink. Now every room you enter, people are going to be like, why is this guy here? You know what I mean? It's not a good look for his
well,
image.
it's damaging to the ball club too, because they're trying to attract that fan base, and so you could lose some of them, and so they have to do PR fix, so to speak.
But the ball club part, it was a given. I'm just trying to bring up the part about what you did to your career. You know what I mean? The ball club could pay for this stuff to be able to get around and get past it, and people love the Red Sox so much, they'll go past that as the club. But as a person, and as what you're handling as your career, and as you're trying to get endorsements and everything, a lot of gay men hell, a lot of gay people are heads of a lot of these corporations that are going to want to sponsor certain people and put that patch on your name and just do a lot of different things to help you further your career, even after baseball. Now, after that one incident is going to make people always have a bookmark in your career. It's going to be something that they always will turn back to. It's now going to be etched in. No matter what you do from the beginning of your career to the end of your career, it will always be in your biography. Okay, remember, on this date, this kid said this, because now it's that bad. It's etched in. It'll say what he did for his batting average. It'll say what he did on base. It'll say what he did for the Red Sox. If he goes to another team, it'll say all that stuff. But in between all of that, oh, by the way, he also got suspended for stepping out of the batter's box and using this batter's box and using this verbiage to a fan. And you know what I mean? It's that bad. And I don't know if he realizes it or not, but he really needs a publicist to help him get past that. That's why I was so hurt. Not and I wasn't hurt, because of what he said to like saying it to me. I was hurt about like, dude, this is one of those young kids who have a very promising career, and you're starting to end your career and not even realize what you're doing before you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean. If you think about it, uh, he would be like one of the faces of the franchise
right,
and get, you know, you see commercials with players on Nesson, and you see commercials like, I'll just use Big Pop because he's everywhere. But at some point, if you're that good, you're going to get, uh, you know, I'll just use Nike because they're easy because they're everywhere. But you're going to get a Nike endorsement. You're going to get this endorsement. He's not going to get any of those endorsements now. He really shot himself in the foot. So to your point, uh, you know, he he didn't realize the damage he was causing at the time. May realize it now. And again, hopefully, not just the guys in the front office, but this kid, it's going to be Alex Cora, and hopefully there's some veteran guys in there somewhere. Maybe a guy like Chris Martin or even Kenley Jansen. I know they're pitchers, but they're veteran guys. They should be pulling him aside and saying, "Hey, look, dude, what the hell are you doing?" They're,
right,
they're in their mid 30s. They're 35, 38 years old. Those kind of guys should be helping the young guys. And that should never happen in any game or sporting arena or whatever, right? But particularly for the Red Sox, if this happened again, like 4 years from now, when it was one of the another star guys, and it wasn't Durant, it was, huge like black eye for the whole organization. Everybody, you're putting everybody in a bad spot. Not just you now. Now you're representing. Look what you're representing. You're representing the Red Sox. You're representing the city. And so these guys have to understand. What that means. And imagine now you go in the community and they have, you know, uh, a function or something in the city, and let's say the Red Sox were part of it, maybe not sponsored, but they support it, and maybe they look at it and be like, "Well, screw you, your guy, use that derogatory comment. We don't want you here." You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a black eye, so they have to rebuild the trust now, I guess, so to speak, in that community.
all right, moving on.
Unfortunate, really, really unfortunate situation.
Let's
Oh,
talk about the Boston Celtics, because right now they're in the news because, honestly, I'm curious to even figure out why. I mean, I know why the Celtics are in the news. People are talking about them. The NBA season's about to kick off and everything else, but the Celtics have been in the news a lot more lately because Jeff Bezos has been the guy who's been rumored to want to purchase the Celtics. And I got to throw it out there, Steve, and say that when I first heard this rumor, I didn't believe it for a second, because Jeff Bezos has interest in other teams, and a lot of them are West Coast teams. You know what I mean? And on the West Coast, he doesn't seem like a Northeast type of guy, to want to purchase any Northeast team. So that rumor's been floating around, and I wanted to say this on the air, is that, I think that there are sports shows, sports podcasts, sports personalities and stuff who try to push a narrative, so to speak, to try to get something on to help create hits, likes, momentum to their stuff and everything else. Because as you know, when the Celtics are winning, and the Patriots are winning, and the Red Sox is winning, everybody tends to go more on these websites to generate more money because more advertisers. It's a circle that goes like this. When your team's winning, when your team is losing, then that circle doesn't go like that because people care less. Believe it or not, as you know, Steve, a lot of fan bases, no matter what the fan base is, they are fair weather fans. They don't stay loyal when you're losing. So you have to drum up other things to help create momentum for people to want to turn around and to continue to to want to jump in with interest. So with that being said, the Celtics are coming off a season when they won the NBA championship. They also are coming off a season where they're finding out that not only did they win the NBA championship, now that the ownership is putting them up for sale. So now people are trying to figure out who's going to be the one to buy it. And of course, Red Sox ownership group has been linked into it, and that's been, vetted out to not be true. Steve, what's your thoughts on everything I just said? Are you also one to believe that people in the Boston sports world are trying to push a narrative, or did you believe that maybe Jeff Bezos really is, and he just was mad that it leaked out? Because usually Bill Simmons is not, I can't remember the last time Bill Simmons put out a bad report at all. I can't, So, what's your thoughts? Where you at
So
on this?
because it came from Bill Simmons, who's an NBA guy, so to speak, I did believe it because, I mean, he's one of the top NBA reporters, so to speak, and he's a local guy from here. Um, honestly, I would prefer him over John Henry in a second.
Right.
I'm like, fine, yeah, buy the team, good. You know what I mean? Build a new arena, call it the Amazon Arena. I don't care what you call it, but get a guy in here that's not going to be worried about money. He's not going to be worried about the luxury tax if he wants to win. Uh, and so I'd rather have him than John Henry. John Henry, do us a favor. You want a basketball team that bad? Wait for Seattle's expansion. Buy the Mariners, sell the Red Sox, go out there, ruin them for 20 years. I'm all set with that. I'm good. You know what I mean? Send him packing and get him out of here. Look, we never know. To your point, I think all the media. I shouldn't say all the media, but a majority of them have a job to do. They have to drum stuff up. They have to get interesting topics to get people to listen or watch. And so it doesn't surprise me that anyone would fudge what's out there because they're trying, like you said before, they're trying to get clicks, they're trying to get hits, they're trying to get people to tune in. And, especially the sports radio guys, they're like, oh, I got to do a 4-hour show today. So we got to talk about this today, even though they talked about it for the last, 10 years or over and over again for the last, month and a half beating a dead horse. Oh, I got to talk about it again today because we're going to show. I'm like, so look, some of the stuff that gets out there, it's difficult to figure out how legit it is, right? Like X or Twitter or whatever has the blue check mark. So if a guy from NFL Network, I'll just use Albert Grimm, right? If he puts something out there and he's got a blue check mark, he's a pretty reliable source. But when like Felder and Maz put it out there, it's like, all right, well, how real is that? We don't know because they're not there. They're just getting the stuff secondhand. So I don't know. I bought it only because, like I said, the source to me was Bill Simmons is an NBA guy, and I got excited because I'm like, okay, great. We're going to get a guy that's not going to care about money, and we're going to keep the team together and all that. It's not realistic. So, look, and also I agree with you. If he's not from here, he's not invested in the area. If he's from the West Coast, he's going to want a West Coast team. He's going to want Seattle or whatever. So I agree with that too. So look, I think that as far as like who the next owner is, we want them to be invested. We want them to, be good owners. We want them to win. We want them to, keep the things going. And so that's all we can hope for. Amazon, I mean, they have no problem building, a warehouse in Johnston, Rhode Island, or whatever, or anywhere in Mass. But, buy the Celtics. Well, I don't need to do that. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings now at this point. I want good owner. I don't want John Henry. I can tell you that right now. If we had Bezos for an owner, and again, these guys sometimes they get detached. And you won't hear from him. He'll have whoever the president is or whatever. And if they start doing crappy, he's not going to be front and center. So that could be a problem too. So that has to factor in when you're talking about a guy that's a gazillionaire owner like that. If he's an absentee kind of guy,
Yeah.
You're not going to get. It's kind of like John Henry now. He's in hiding.
But the thing is, with these deals and everything else, you got to look at it like, what's the deal? What makes sense for a deal? And right now, the Celtics ownership group is putting up an offering that doesn't make sense for anybody, no matter how much money you have to want to purchase a team. And Jeff Bezos, if you know anything about him, and I know a lot about him, I know one thing: he's not buying anything if it's a bad deal. You know what I mean? Like the owners, whoever buys the Celtics, they still have to give the rights and the owners the rights to do certain things to the current ownership right now. So meanwhile, you just want the new guys to come in and put up the money, but you still keep the rights of what you can do what you want. Nobody's going to do that deal. That's one of the dumbest deals that you're putting out there for anybody to buy. And Jeff Bezos is one of the last guys on the planet who's going to do anything in a bad deal. He's not going to do it. You'd have to get a real person who's a real Celtics fan and just wants to be walking around saying that they're an owner to take that kind of deal. And somebody's going to be out there because you and I both know, Steve, and especially since you like cars as much as I do. There's a sucker born every minute. You know what I mean? And because that's
Well, Frank, let's
true,
hope we get stuck with a good sucker, not a bad sucker.
and that's why I threw it out there. It's because of that's where you're at. But also in the basketball world, news came down in the last 48 hours that Steve Kerr was so-called stepping down from coaching USA basketball. And Steve, I'm very excited about this because of the fact being, I didn't like him as a coach. I watched the Olympics. I watched the last two games of the Olympics, and I watched the first three before they started to qualify. I didn't like his coaching style at all. And then it had nothing to do with Jason Tatum. I just didn't like his substitution patterns and everything else. So I'm all for Eric Spoelstra, who I think is going to probably be the next guy up because everybody in the league is saying this guy's the best coach in the league. I've been saying it ever since the Heat beat Milwaukee years ago and upset them. I was like, this guy is definitely the best coach in the league by far. And then he gets to the finals with the team that's depleted and they don't. I don't. I think they only won one game. But at the end of the day, he got them to the finals. You know what I mean? He beat the number. He was the last place seeded Miami Heat. He beats the number one seed to get to the finals. He does that, and that very rarely happens. And he did it all by coaching. So I'm all for Eric Spoelstra. What's your thoughts on this, Steve? Do you think? Are you happy with Steve Kerr stepping down? Do you think it's the Jason Tatum situation? Do you think that's what it was? And I want to talk about that too. I think I know what that situation was. But what's your thoughts on that, Steve?
All right, so I had a negative Ned rant after he sat him in the second game. I was pissed off because after the first game, he comes out and says, "Oh, I feel kind of stupid." Well, you're double stupid then to sit him again and give him no minutes. I'm sorry. I was really pissed off that he did that. For whatever the reasons are, I don't even care. That guy's a top 5 player. He shouldn't be on the bench, period. Uh, so I'm happy that he stepped down. I said it during the rant. I hope he never coaches USA basketball again. I don't want to see him. But as we were talking earlier before we came on, I have a funny feeling that part of the reason he was there is because it was Steph Curry's first Olympics, and he had Draymond Green too, and he's coached both those guys. I think that the familiarity there of having those veterans on the team with LeBron. I mean, there's your top 3 guys. And so he's the coach of the team, but I'm glad he's gone, and I hope he never coaches USA again. I agree with you. Spoelstra would make an excellent replacement. He's a guy. He's like the Alex Core of basketball. He's going to get the most out of his guys, whatever the guys are on the roster. If the roster's depleted, he's still going to get you to the playoffs. So I didn't get to watch as many of the games, but what I saw, they just reached a point in that last game where it felt like they were just coming down, chucking up threes, kind of like the Celtics. I'm like, what am I watching? I'm watching the Celtics all over again. I'm like, you guys, you got to do something different. You can't just keep the film going down there and chucking it up. If it wasn't for Steph Curry, they would have lost.
Yeah.
And clutch baskets too. Like that one he hit when he was like falling away near the end. I mean, that was huge. So again, he was lucky. Listen, they're all lucky. I mean, Phil Jackson was lucky to have Michael Jordan for however many years, right? The coaches that coach the Celtics are lucky to have Larry Bird. It's just the way the league is. The players, the talent, they're the ones that win the games. It's rare that the coach is the actual. I'm not saying the coach isn't important. I'm just saying that the players are the ones that make the plays. He made those plays and carried them to a goal in the last game, luckily. But Steve Kerr, done. Bye. Don't care. I hope you fall off the cliff. I really do. I hope the Celtics pace them by 40 or 50 next time they play them.
They probably will. But my biggest complaint was Devin Booker was playing more than Jason Tatum. And anybody who knows basketball knows Devin Booker is not a better basketball player than Jason Tatum. And Tatum has him with height and length. So every time they kept putting in Devin Booker, I was beyond shocked. I couldn't believe it. The other rotation patterns I really didn't understand was why Anthony Davis got more time than Bam Adebayo, and I think they had a lot to do with reputation. I mean, I just was looking at their substitution patterns, the way they was playing. So I'm happy to say that I think Steve Kerr's, I'm happy he's gone, and I think he did things, because he had grind, access to grind with certain players, because being a Golden State Warrior, coach, like why would Anthony Davis play more than Bam Adebayo? You know what I mean? And is that because that you guys ended up playing Miami Heat and you didn't like that? Was that something happened with that, or and why was Devin Booker playing more than Jason Tatum? And why is Steph Curry playing all the time? Steph Curry, he didn't have a great game in his last two games. Actually, the last game itself, even though he was playing horribly, was the best game he played because he hit those four, 3 pointers consecutively. But he had been playing all the time. If you look at his minutes played, he played more than any Olympic player next to LeBron, which makes no sense. If you're playing a rotation of guys on the U.S. Olympic team, you need to rotate the guys. The previous group and the previous group before that, what they used to do in the Olympics is they would rotate them in rotations of 3 to 5. Like you three guys come out, and you next three guys come in, or you five guys come out, and you five guys come in, and that's what they were doing and had been doing. Not Steve Kerr. So I would listen. I don't want to keep banging that drum. I just was like, I'm glad he's gone. I'm over here. So now let's jump into, because I'm looking at the time. Talk to me about your poll question, Steve, because you had do you like the Patriots traded Matthew Judon to Atlanta for a third round pick? And it looked like everybody liked that. Like everybody liked that idea for a third round pick. That's what you're telling me? Everybody liked
Yeah,
that?
100%. Everybody liked it. I think they realized the situation just wasn't going to get any better. Probably. Uh,
Yeah.
I got to think that that's it. They needed to do the right thing and move on for both sides.
Hmm. Okay, so the next one you had was, you tell me, was Gary Bettman should reinstate Milan Lucic so he can play again this season, and it looks like everybody liked that question too. I got to help you with these questions. I got to help you with these questions.
Yeah, sorry. All right, we'll talk about that afterwards. I'll fix that. So look, Milan Lucic has been training uh, to make a comeback,
Hmm.
but the commissioner has to reinstate him. And so the reason I put that out there is because, uh, you know, the Bruins fans in particular felt that he should be given a second chance. So I wanted to get their thoughts. I mean, not so much that the Bruins will pick him back up, but um, I believe he's still in the player assistance program. So he has to be reinstated. And so there was, people were like, yeah, he should definitely, given how many other instances where players came back and they did things that were worse, and there were no charges filed and so on and so forth, they felt that he should be given a chance. He should be given a second chance. So
Hmm.
that's why I put it out there. Plus, like I said, there's really nothing going on hockey-wise. So
Right, right.
just a chance to have something for hockey.
Yeah. So you also threw this question out there, this next question out there, even though we discussed it about Jeff Bezos buying the Celtics. I think including me, I would like him to buy the Celtics. I don't think he will, only because Jeff Bezos, for those of you sitting at home and don't realize it, he's sitting on 160 billion, not million. He's sitting on 160 billion. The group that the Red Sox group and everything else, those guys are in what, for a combined 40 billion, 50 billion?
Something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But he's at 160, 170, depending on what happens in the stock market and everything else. He might wake up tomorrow morning and be 170. You know what I mean? Because he's not liquid that, but a lot of his, stuff is on paper and it fluctuates. One morning he can wake up be 175 billion. Tomorrow he can wake up be 160 billion. Depends on the way the market flows. But either way, his worst case scenario is he's at 140 billion. So he has money to burn. And for the Celtics, they're looking for what, 6.5 billion, 6 billion. That's nothing to him. He can get that in maybe a month, making a couple of moves, and it wouldn't hurt him. So I don't want a billionaire to come in and get the Celtics, and that billionaire is relying on the Celtics to do things and everything else, because the Celtics are going to be losing a lot of money. So I want somebody who's not really counting his pennies, to get the Steve Burgess. Where are you at with that, Steve? You want somebody like that, or you want?
Oh, we want somebody like that, Frank, because we know that he's just gonna pay. Whatever
Right.
the luxury tax when you have Tatum and Brown going over next year, and they have to get into. I'm not going to get into the stupid aprons and whatnot, but let's say their payroll is $400 million. He doesn't
Yeah.
have to worry about it,
Yeah.
right? Whereas John Henry's counting pennies already with the Red Sox. Now I gotta count pennies with the Celtics too. I don't want that. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. Get
Yeah.
a guy in here that's just going to be like, yeah, fine, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because if John Henry comes in, you could guarantee Tatum or Brown, depends on who is going to get traded right out the gate, right out the gate. So, and honestly, I've said it for I don't know how I don't know how many weeks anyway. I think whoever comes in, new ownership group is going to trade one of them anyway because they want to. When people come in and they turn over a company, the first thing they do is they try to peel back. Their expenses. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
when one company buys another company, it's always layoffs. People are
I know.
trying to figure out how to get rid of certain costs and expenses and everything else, and they're going to try to do that. And I can see that. I can see that happening. So
Yep.
that's what my thought process is. So that's where we were with the poll questions. And did you have any predictions for last week? Did you have any last week predictions or last 2 week
I had
limits?
one prediction. Yeah, I did. I had one. I said
Okay.
they were going to drop 5 out of 7 and fall between 3 and 5 games out of the race, the wild card race. And wrong again. They went 4-3. They split with Baltimore, and they took 2 out of 3 from Houston. So they did at one point. They were 4.5 games back, but now they're 3 games back. So listen, they went 4-3. That I think that's a best case scenario for them, given who they're playing. I mean, I expected 2 and 5. You're playing good teams now. Those teams are good. So if you beat them, you can take a series or split.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have more too. They get the Yankees coming up. They got Arizona coming up. They got Baltimore again. So they still have tough games. There will be some easier ones too. The Blue Jays and stuff. But
All right,
listen,
so throw it
it's
out there,
tough.
Steve. What's your prediction now? Is it a Red Sox prediction? Is it a
It's
what prediction?
It's going to be a Patriots prediction. Now I don't know when the official cut downs start, but I have.
Monday. It'll be Monday after they said it this today.
Right,
Jerry
it
May
goes down
put
to
the
what,
alert.
75 or something?
No, they have to cut it all the way down because
To
there's no.
53?
Yeah, they have to cut it down to 53 by Monday morning, Monday afternoon. So that's the cut
Monday
down.
afternoon at 4, probably, I think.
Yeah. So
Okay, so I have. There's always surprise guys on the list. They're not. These guys are not like huge household names, but I say Marcus Jones and Mate Mapu gone.
ooh, that's a good thing.
I don't think they're gonna make the team. I think they're gonna get cut.
All right, that's a good one. I think my prediction for the Patriots will be that there won't be any major cuts and everything else because the Patriots want everything they can do with the names to help put butts in the seats. I think the Patriots' biggest thing is that which is no surprise to anybody. I think they're going to lose this next preseason game, um, and I think they're going to lose their season opener with Cincinnati. No, I think they're going to win the opener to Cincinnati and shock the world. I just don't see it how they're going to do it, but I think they're going to do it. They're going to be.
No, I disagree with that. But okay, we get that. When that first game comes around, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I think that probably don't. Even though I'm gonna be shocked because I still think they'll be shocked to win any game. But any person who watches the NFL knows, if you're gonna get anybody, it's gonna be in the first couple of weeks in the NFL season before people get their feet under them. So I think we're gonna get Cincinnati. I saw the Cincinnati game the other day when they were playing. Oh my God, was it Chicago? Who were they playing? They were playing somebody. They were playing
Might
horrible.
have been Chicago. I forget.
Yeah. Cincinnati looked horrible with their first string guys. They looked horrible. So they got to get back, and I think the Patriots' chance to get them will be the first game. But anyway, I don't. My prediction is that there won't be any big names to be cut, and I think and I'm going to go out on a limb and do another one. And I think the Red Sox are going to win more than they lose by the time we get back on the air again. I think whether it's 4 out of 3, 4 out of 2, whatever it's going to be, I think they're going to pull it off. But I do think if they make the playoffs, I think they're going to be a first round out when they make the playoffs. So that's my predictions. You know what I mean? That's my prediction. You
All right,
want
so
to get a final word on that one, Steve, or what?
all right, I'll do the same thing I said last week. I think they're going to be under 500. I think they'll lose 3 out of 7 or something like that. I think they listen. They did it today, but the pitching has been so wonky that I can't trust them.
Steve, if you ever want to win these things, whatever your mind tells you, you need to go against the opposite. If you ever want to win these things.
Well, you already said it, so I can't take yours. I can't say, oh, they're going to win 4 out of 7.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can.
But the problem is, and it's not just a negative Ned thing. I'm going by what my eyeballs tell me. My eyeballs tell me that the bullpen is so screwed up, and they have such lack of talent. Greg Wiesel, how many more times am I going to watch this guy in the next week or two? And they keep bringing these guys up and down from Worcester. I mean, they should be at a point right now where they have Liam Hendricks. He's a guy that they got from Chicago that has the Tommy John. He's got to have rehab starts down, not rehab starts, a rehab assignment and get like 8 outings down there and come back for September. So you keep shuffling the bullpen around. By this time of the year, usually everybody's settled into a role. You have a 6th inning guy, a 7th, 8th, 9th. They don't have that. They don't have guys settled into roles anymore. You can't. The 2 new guys they got, it should be Sims in the 6th, and it should be Sims.
Which is this?
Garcia.
Yeah.
It should be Sims, Garcia, Martin, and Jansen. That should be the last 4 guys in the bullpen. Now it's Greg Weiser and Joe Schmo and some other Ocean State job lot guy every other day. And so Alex Cora has to juggle that. And what's killing them too? I'm sorry, but their play at home has been horrible. They have to rectify that. They have 20 games left at home. They have to be like 12-8 at home in order to make a wild card. They can't be under 500. That's killing them.
All right, so Steve got the last word in. I gave it to him. He got more than last word in. He went overtime. With that being said, we're going to wrap this up so we can get as close to the time as possible. Thank you guys for watching. This is Boston Straight Shooters. We greatly appreciate you. I'm Frank. That's Steve. Steve, take us home.
All right, thank you again, everybody. Thanks for voting in the polls. Thanks for your support. And once again, don't forget our YouTube channel. We're posting the shows over there. Help spread the word. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.